Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that's really blown up online. This idea that artificial sweeteners, the debate's over. They've been cleared.
That's right. You see it everywhere. Headlines saying a big study in Nature Metabolism, the sweet study, has completely flipped our understanding. They're calling it ironclad proof that sweeteners help you lose weight and are even good for your gut.
Okay, so our mission here isn't to be pro or anti-sweetener. It's what we always do, dig into the actual data. This study is an RCT, a randomized controlled trial, supposedly the best kind of evidence. But even gold standards need, well, a critical look. Let's get into what people are actually claiming based on this study.
So the big claims hinge on two main points. First, the group using sweeteners lost, on average, 1.6 kilograms more weight than the group that didn't. Well, technically, they maintained 1.6 kilograms more their initial weight loss. And second, this weight difference came with supposedly beneficial changes to gut bacteria, which sounds great, right? It counters all those older worries.
Right. Let's park the gut bacteria for a second and focus on that weight number, 1.6 kilos. Because the source material we looked at really pulls this apart. The participants, they started at around 91 kilos on average. The non-sweetener group, they lost 5.6 kilos. The sweetener group lost 7.2.
Exactly. So that difference, the 1.6 kilos everyone's excited about, you measure that against the starting weight, 91 kilos, and it comes out to just about a 1.8% difference in weight change relative to their starting point. Even the study itself in the discussion called the outcome only slightly better.
Okay, slightly better. A 1.8% difference. That somehow becomes ironclad proof. That's quite a jump in interpretation, isn't it? You can almost hear someone thinking, wow, 1.6 kilos is still 1.6 kilos. It's better than nothing. How do we contextualize that kind of small effect size?
Well, context is key. A small difference might be statistically significant, maybe, but is it clinically significant? Is it life-changing? Maybe not. And another thing people hear sweetener study and think it applies to, like all sweeteners equally, but the source points out and the study confirms, they used a whole mix. Aspartame, stevia, sucralose, even sugar alcohols like erythritol. You can't just lump them all together.
That's a really important point. It wasn't just Diet Coke versus water, it was a blend. Which brings us to the study design itself. Okay, it's an RCT, great, but even RCTs can have issues. What did our source flag?
The big one was statistical power. Basically, how sure can you be that the result wasn't just, random luck? They started with 341 people, which is a decent number, but only 203 actually finished the whole study. That's a big dropout rate. And that drop meant their statistical power fell from the 90% they aimed for down to 86%.
Okay, 86% versus 90%. Why should you, listening at home, care about that 4% difference? What does it mean practically?
It means there's a slightly higher chance the results they saw could just be noise, especially when the effect you're measuring, that 1.8% weight difference, is already pretty small.
Yeah.
You combine a weaker statistical power with a tiny effect size and your confidence in the result. It should definitely go down. Oh, and remember the gut bacteria point. Only 137 people out of the 203 who finished even had their gut samples analyzed. So an even smaller group for that claim.
So statistically weaker than planned, a marginal effect size, mixed sweeteners, fewer people analyzed for the gut claims, yet the headlines are screaming victory. So you have to ask, why the hype? And this leads to, well, a crucial question for you, the listener, who paid for the study.
Right. You always have to check the competing interest section in these papers. It's usually tucked away at the end. And this one, it disclosed funding or compensation for some authors from, well, some big names, Nestle, Unilever, the International Sweeteners Association, the American Beverage Association.
Okay. Let's be clear. Funding doesn't automatically invalidate research. But it's critical context, isn't it? Especially when the results are being framed so definitively.
Absolutely. It's about transparency and understanding potential biases.
So wrapping this up, the core message here for you is really about critical thinking. When you see these sensational headlines, ironclad proof, subverted cognition, especially for complex issues like diet and health, you've got to pause. Look at the actual effect size. Was it 1.8% or a massive shift? Look at the study's limitations like statistical power. And yes, look at who funded it.
Our source actually made an interesting comparison. It likened this kind of hype to some of the early claims about certain drugs during the COVID pandemic. Remember that? Huge claims based on early, sometimes shaky or limited data. Some of those were later debunked or shown to be much less effective than initially claimed.
That's a powerful comparison. It really makes you think, doesn't it? So the final thought for you is this. When someone presents a simple, definitive solution to a really complex problem based on data that even the researchers call slightly better, what does that tell us about certainty, about hype, and about the need to always keep digging into the numbers? That's the real deep dive.